The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before the human exploration vessel, Starseeker. Captain James Miller stood on the bridge, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he gazed through the main viewport. The ship had been mapping the outer regions of human space for the past 3 months, and so far they hadn't encountered anything more exciting than a few interesting asteroid formations. That was about to change. "Captain," called out Rick from the sensor station, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the bridge. "Unknown ship appearing at coordinates 227 Mark IV. It's big, sir. Really big." Miller walked over to the main display screen, his boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. The object emerging from what appeared to be some form of faster-than-light travel was indeed massive, at least 3 times the size of the Starseeker. "Life signs?" Miller asked, maintaining his usual calm demeanor. "Hundreds, sir, and they're definitely not human," Lisa replied from her science station, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "The ship's design doesn't match anything in our database." The bridge crew watched in silence as the alien vessel positioned itself directly in front of them. Its hull was covered in what looked like overlapping plates, giving it the appearance of a giant armored creature. Dark purple energy pulsed along its sides, and multiple weapon ports were clearly visible. "They're hailing us," Tom announced from communications. Miller straightened his uniform. On screen, the main display flickered to life, revealing a sight that made several crew members gasp. The alien commander stood at least 8 feet tall, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer like polished metal. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, stared at them with an unsettling intensity. "Primitive human vessel," the alien's voice boomed through the speakers, automatically translated by their systems. "I am Admiral Crix of the Galactic Dominion. You have entered restricted space. Surrender immediately, or face annihilation." Miller raised an eyebrow, the only sign of his surprise. "Admiral Crix, I am Captain James Miller of the Earth exploration vessel Starseeker. We were unaware this region was claimed by any civilization. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration." The alien commander's upper eyes narrowed. "Your ignorance does not excuse your trespass. We have monitored your species' expansion. You are dangerous, unpredictable. We will not allow you to spread further." "With all due respect, Admiral," Miller replied, his voice steady, "we have no hostile intentions. Perhaps we could discuss this situation and reach a peaceful resolution." Admiral Crix made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it came through the translator as static. "Your attempts at diplomacy are futile. We have studied your kind. We know of your violent nature, your ability to tame the most fearsome creatures. But now you will face something beyond your comprehension." The alien commander turned to someone off-screen and barked an order in his native language. "Prepare the beast. Let these humans witness true terror before their end." Miller exchanged glances with his crew. They had faced tough situations before, but this was their first hostile alien encounter. Yet something about the Admiral's threats seemed off. "Sir," Lisa whispered, "their weapons aren't powered up. And these energy readings, they're focusing power to some kind of containment system, not their main weapons." Miller nodded slightly. Years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, they were telling him this situation wasn't quite what it seemed. "Admiral," Miller said, keeping his voice level, "whatever you're planning, I urge you to reconsider. We can find a peaceful solution." "Peace." Admiral Crix's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "There will be no peace. You will learn why the Galactic Dominion is feared across 12 star systems. Prepare yourselves, humans. The beast comes for you." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. "Orders, sir?" Rick asked, his hand hovering over the weapon controls. Miller studied the alien ship for a moment longer. "Maintain current position. Shields at maximum, but do not power up weapons. Something tells me we're missing a piece of this puzzle." The crew watched as a small section of the alien vessel's hull began to open, revealing a dark chamber within. Whatever the beast was, they were about to find out. Miller couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was about to take a very unexpected turn. The bridge of the Star Seeker hummed with nervous energy as the crew watched the alien vessel's hull continue to open. Captain Miller remained at his station, eyes fixed on the main view screen, where a massive cylindrical pod was slowly emerging from the Galactic Dominion ship. "Scan that container," Miller ordered, his voice steady despite the tension. Lisa's fingers flew across her console. It's some kind of stasis pod, sir. Environmental controls, life support systems. They're keeping something alive in there." "The beast," Rick muttered from his station, then cleared his throat. "Sorry, sir." The pod was surprisingly small compared to the alien vessel, about the size of a standard shuttle. Its surface gleamed with a dull metallic sheen, and strange symbols covered its hull. As it cleared the alien ship's bay, small thrusters activated, directing it toward the Star Seeker. "Sir," Tom called from communications. "Incoming transmission." Admiral Crix's face appeared on the screen again, all four eyes gleaming with what appeared to be satisfaction. "Watch closely, humans. Witness the instrument of your destruction. The beast has broken the will of countless species. Your pitiful vessel will be its feeding ground." Miller leaned forward slightly. "Admiral, I must point out that releasing an unknown life form onto another vessel could be considered an act of biological warfare. Are you certain you want to take this step?" The alien commander made that strange static-like laughing sound again. "Your concerns are meaningless. The beast cannot be stopped. It cannot be reasoned with. It hunts. It kills. It is perfection." As the transmission ended, Lisa's console began beeping urgently. "Captain, the pod is requesting automatic docking procedures. It's using standard Earth protocols." "They've studied us well," Miller mused. "Security teams to the docking bay. Full containment protocols." He pressed a button on his chair. "Dr. Roberts to the docking bay. Bring your xenobiology kit." The pod was now less than 100 meters from their ship. Close-up camera feeds showed more detail of its construction. It was clearly built for containing something alive, with reinforced walls at least a meter thick. "Life sign readings?" Miller asked. Lisa adjusted her sensors. "Just one, sir." "And that's strange. It's not very big. Maybe about the size of a..." She double-checked her readings. "Sir, according to these scans, whatever's in there is roughly the size of a beagle." Rick snorted, then quickly tried to cover it with a cough. The pod made contact with their docking bay, magnetic clamps engaging with a solid thunk that reverberated through the ship. Security feeds showed the containment teams in position, weapons ready, their faces hidden behind sealed environmental suits. "The pod's beginning its opening sequence," Lisa reported. "Environmental readings are well within Earth normal range. Temperature, atmosphere, pressure, it's all compatible with human life." Miller watched the security feeds intently. The pod's surface began to split along invisible seams, releasing a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. Inside, something moved in the shadows. "Movement detected," called one of the security officers through the comm. Wait, what?" The creature emerged from the pod, and for a moment, everyone on the bridge stared in confusion at their screens. It stood about knee-high, with 6 legs arranged in a way that suggested both speed and agility. Its body was covered in soft-looking fur that shifted between blue and green depending on how the light hit it. 2 pairs of ears swiveled independently, and a short, fluffy tail wagged tentatively as it looked around the docking bay. Then it did something completely unexpected. It sat down, tilted its head, and made a sound that, even through the security feed, sounded remarkably like a puppy's yip. "Is that..." Rick started. "The beast," Miller finished, unable to keep a slight smile from his face. The creature stood up again and cautiously approached the nearest security officer, its tail now wagging faster. The officer, despite their training, lowered their weapons slightly. "Sir," the officer's voice came through the comm. It's trying to sniff my boot." Before Miller could respond, Admiral Crix's face appeared on the main screen again. "Yes, cower before the beast. Watch as it." The alien commander stopped mid-sentence, his 4 eyes widening as he saw the security feed. "Why aren't you running in terror?" Miller looked at the screen showing the creature, which was now rolling onto its back, clearly hoping for a belly rub. "Admiral," he said carefully, "I think we need to have a conversation about what constitutes terror in our respective cultures." The situation in the Starseeker's docking bay had evolved from tense standoff to something entirely unexpected. Dr. Roberts, the ship's lead xenobiologist, was kneeling beside the 6-legged creature, running a handheld scanner over its furry body while it playfully tried to catch the moving light from the device. "Fascinating," she muttered, adjusting her scanner settings. "Its biological structure is unlike anything I've seen, but its behavior patterns are remarkably similar to Earth's domestic canines." The security team had relaxed their stance, though they maintained their positions around the perimeter. The creature, which someone had already nicknamed Spot due to the distinctive white patches in its color-shifting fur, seemed more interested in making friends than causing terror. Captain Miller entered the docking bay, accompanied by his first officer, Commander Wilson. As they approached, Spot's ears perked up, and it bounded over to investigate the newcomers with enthusiastic curiosity. "Careful, sir," Dr. Roberts called out. "Even if it seems friendly, it's still an unknown alien species." Miller nodded, but crouched down anyway as Spot approached. The creature sniffed his outstretched hand, then made a trilling sound that seemed to vibrate through the air. A moment later, it pressed its head against Miller's palm. "Some deadly beast," Wilson commented, watching as Spot rolled over, clearly asking for belly rubs. "Think there's been some kind of mistake." Before Miller could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. "Human vessel." Admiral Crix's voice boomed through the speakers. "Why have you not been reduced to cowering wrecks? The beast should have driven you mad with terror by now." Miller stood up, though Spot remained close to his legs. "Admiral, I suggest you come aboard and see for yourself. I assure you, we mean no harm to your beast." There was a long pause before the alien commander replied. "Very well. Perhaps you are attempting some kind of deception. I will witness this myself." 20 minutes later, Admiral Crix ducked through the docking bay doors, his tall frame making the human-sized entrance appear tiny. 4 armed guards flanked him, each carrying weapons that looked capable of destroying small buildings. The alien commander stopped abruptly when he saw Spot playing tug-of-war with a piece of rope one of the security officers had retrieved from the gym. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly in sequence. "Impossible," he muttered. "The beast has broken the will of hardened warriors. It has cleared entire space stations with its mere presence. How are you not paralyzed with fear?" Dr. Roberts stepped forward, her scanner still humming. "Admiral, if I may, what exactly makes this creature so terrifying to your people?" Crix gestured dramatically with one of his 4 arms. "It is a creature of nightmare. Look at its unnatural number of legs. The way it can move in any direction without turning. The horrifying way it changes colors. And worst of all," he shuddered visibly, "the fur." The humans exchanged glances. Miller cleared his throat. "Admiral, I think I begin to understand. Your species has never encountered mammals before, has it?" "Mammals." Crix pronounced the word carefully. "You mean there are more fur-bearing creatures?" "Oh yes," Dr. Roberts said, warming to the subject. "On Earth, thousands of species have fur. Many of them are domesticated, living in harmony with humans. In fact, this little one reminds us of one of our most popular pets." As if to demonstrate her point, Spot chose that moment to flop onto its back near Crix's feet, all 6 legs in the air, making what could only be described as puppy dog eyes at the towering alien. One of Crix's guards made a sound that might have been a whimper and took a step back. "Admiral," Miller said carefully, "I think perhaps we should continue this discussion in the conference room. And if you're willing, I'd like to show you some images from Earth. I believe we may have very different perspectives on what constitutes a fearsome creature." Crix was still staring at Spot, who had rolled back over and was now attempting to play with the Admiral's boot. You truly feel no fear." "Well," Wilson said with a small smile, "we might die from the cuteness, but that's about it." Cuteness. Crix's translator seemed to struggle with the word. "You find this terror beast adorable." Spot yipped happily, its tail wagging as it looked up at the gathered aliens and humans. "Admiral," Miller said, "I believe we have a lot to learn from each other. Shall we begin with a discussion about what humans consider actually dangerous?" Crix nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Spot. Yes, I believe we should." The Star Seekers conference room had never hosted such an unusual gathering. Captain Miller sat at one end of the table, while Admiral Crix occupied 3 seats at the other end, his large frame requiring the extra space. Dr. Roberts stood by the display screen, preparing her presentation. Spot, the supposed terror beast, had curled up under the table, occasionally snoring softly. "Let me begin by explaining Earth's biological diversity," Dr. Roberts said, bringing up an image of Earth's evolutionary tree. "Mammals, like this creature here, represent just one branch of life on our planet." Admiral Crix leaned forward, all 4 eyes focused intently on the screen. "Your world harbors multiple types of creatures with fur." "Indeed," Dr. Roberts nodded, switching to an image of various Earth animals, from tiny mice to massive bears, from domestic cats to wild wolves. One of Crix's guards made a clicking sound of distress at the images. The Admiral himself seemed to be struggling to maintain his composure. "And these creatures roam freely on your world." Miller smiled slightly. "Some do. Others, like dogs, which your beast strongly resembles, have lived alongside humans for thousands of years. We've domesticated them, formed bonds with them. They're companions, helpers, and friends." Dr. Roberts brought up a new image, a German shepherd playing with children. "This is what we would consider similar to your beast. We call them dogs, and they're one of our most beloved animal companions." Crix's upper eyes widened while his lower ones narrowed, an expression the humans were beginning to recognize as extreme confusion. "You allow your young near such creatures. More than that," Dr. Roberts continued, showing more images. "Dogs help us in many ways. They guard our homes, assist in search and rescue, help people with disabilities, and provide emotional support." Under the table, Spot made a snuffling noise and rolled over, its 6 legs twitching as it dreamed. "Fascinating," Commander Wilson said, reviewing data on his tablet. "According to our analysis, the reason Spot here was considered such a fearsome weapon is that the Galactic Dominion evolved from a species more similar to Earth's insects. They never developed any creatures with internal skeletons or fur." "Is this true, Admiral?" Miller asked. Crix nodded slowly. "Our ancestors emerged from the great hive colonies. All life on our worlds has an exoskeleton. The concept of a soft-bodied creature covered in fibrous growth is," he shuddered slightly, "unsettling." "Then you might want to brace yourself," Dr. Roberts said gently, pulling up her next image. "This is what many humans consider cute and harmless. A rabbit." The image of a fluffy bunny caused one of Crix's guards to actually take a step backward. The Admiral himself gripped the table with all 4 hands. "By the first hive," he whispered, "and your people, keep these as pets." "Along with cats, hamsters, and many others," Miller confirmed. "But perhaps we should save those images for another time. What interests me is how your beast, Spot, came to be seen as a weapon." Crix seemed relieved to change the subject. "It was discovered on an uninhabited world. Our scientists were horrified by its bizarre biology, but noted its incredible abilities. The way it could move in any direction, its color-changing fur, its remarkable sensory capabilities. When we first encountered other species, we found they shared our natural aversion to such creatures. Until now, Wilson added. Until now, Crix agreed, looking down at Spot, who had woken up and was now hopefully placing its head on the Admiral's leg. It seems we may have miscalculated regarding humans. Dr. Roberts saved her presentation and sat down. Admiral, I believe this misunderstanding could be an opportunity. Our species clearly have very different evolutionary backgrounds and perspectives. We could learn so much from each other. Miller nodded. And perhaps we could start by helping you understand that not everything unfamiliar is necessarily dangerous. Crix looked down again at Spot, who was now making the sad eyes that all dog-like creatures seem to master. After a moment's hesitation, he slowly extended one of his hands. Like this? He asked, mimicking the human's earlier petting motions. Exactly like that, Miller said, watching as Spot's tail began to wag enthusiastically at the attention. The conference room fell quiet except for the happy sounds of an alien terror beast getting its first belly rubbed from a formerly terrified admiral. Admiral Crix sat rigidly in the Star Seeker's observation lounge, his 4 eyes fixed on the large display screen before him. Captain Miller stood nearby, carefully monitoring the alien commander's reactions. Dr. Roberts had suggested they gradually introduce Earth's wildlife to their visitors, starting with what humans considered gentle creatures. That plan had lasted approximately 5 minutes. What manner of horror is this? Crix whispered, watching footage of a house cat stalking and pouncing on a toy. That's just a typical domestic cat, Miller explained. Millions of humans keep them as pets. They're usually smaller than Spot. It moves like a hunter, one of Crix's guards observed, his voice trembling slightly. Look at those retractable claws. The way it calculates its attack. Dr. Roberts stepped forward. Perhaps we should move on to some of Earth's larger domestic animals. She switched the display to show a horse galloping across a field. The effect was immediate. 2 of Crix's guards actually backed out of the room, while the Admiral himself made a high-pitched clicking sound that their translators couldn't process. That's impossible, he finally managed. The size, the power. And you say your people ride on these beings. Since ancient times, Miller confirmed, they've been crucial to human civilization's development. The next series of images showed various farm animals, cows grazing peacefully, sheep being herded by dogs, pigs wallowing happily in mud. With each new creature, the remaining alien guards seemed to grow more distressed. Admiral, Miller said gently, I should warn you that these are just our domesticated animals. Would you like to see some of Earth's wild predators? Crix gripped his chair with all 4 hands. There are more dangerous ones. Dr. Roberts brought up footage of a lion taking down a gazelle. The Admiral's color shifted to a pale gray, a reaction they hadn't seen before. And these creatures, they roam free on your world. In protected areas, yes, Miller explained, but that's nothing compared to our marine life. The footage of a great white shark breaching the water to catch a seal caused Crix to actually leave his chair and back away from the screen. Enough, he declared, his voice shaking. I begin to understand why our beast failed to intimidate you. Your world, your entire planet is filled with creatures that would give our worst nightmares. Spot, who had been napping in the corner, chose this moment to wake up and trot over to Crix, rubbing against his legs affectionately. The Admiral looked down at the 6-legged creature he had once considered the ultimate weapon. We thought its fur was terrifying, he said quietly, reaching down to scratch behind Spot's ears. We thought its ability to change color was the height of biological horror. And yet, your world has creatures that can tear through solid flesh, that hunt in packs, that can swallow beings whole. Miller nodded. Evolution took very different paths on our worlds, Admiral. What seems terrifying to one species might be completely ordinary to another. And yet, Crix continued, watching as Spot rolled over for belly rubs. You humans not only survive alongside these creatures, you've tamed them, befriended them, made them part of your society. It's more than that, Dr. Roberts added. Many humans dedicate their lives to protecting and preserving Earth's wildlife, even the most dangerous species. Crix straightened up, his color returning to normal. Captain Miller, I believe I owe you and your crew an apology. We assumed your species was dangerous because you showed no fear of creatures we found terrifying. Now I understand. You're not fearless. You're something else entirely. Adaptable, Miller suggested. Insane, Crix replied, but his translator indicated it was meant as a form of respect. To live on a world with such creatures, to make companions of them. Your species is either the bravest or the most foolish I've ever encountered. Perhaps both. Spot yipped happily, tail wagging as it looked between the humans and aliens. Admiral, Miller said with a smile, I believe this is the beginning of a very interesting cultural exchange. Would you like to learn about something we call pet adoption? The look of mixed horror and curiosity on Crix's face suggested that the Galactic Dominion was about to undergo some significant changes in its understanding of what constituted a terror beast. The following week aboard the Star Seeker brought changes nobody could have predicted. The docking bay had been temporarily converted into what the crew called an interstellar pet education center, with holographic displays showing various Earth animals. Admiral Crix and his crew had become regular visitors, gradually overcoming their initial terror of furry creatures. And you say these rabbits pose no threat whatsoever? Crix asked, watching a hologram of bunnies hopping through a field. He sat cross-legged on the floor, with Spot contentedly sprawled across his lap. None at all, Dr. Roberts confirmed, adjusting the display. They're herbivores, plant eaters. Many humans keep them as pets, especially families with children. One of Crix's younger officers, whom the humans had nicknamed Junior, due to his lower rank markings, raised a hand. But what about their powerful jumping abilities? Their rapid reproduction rate? Surely they must be classified as some form of biological weapon. Captain Miller, who was reviewing reports nearby, couldn't help but chuckle. The only thing rabbits might destroy is your garden, if you're not careful. The aliens had been particularly fascinated by the concept of pets in human homes. The idea of voluntarily sharing living space with other species was completely foreign to their hive-based culture. Tell me again about these dog parks, Crix requested, absently scratching Spot's belly. The six-legged creature had completely abandoned its role as a terror beast and had fully embraced being a spoiled pet. Dr. Roberts brought up a new hologram showing dozens of dogs playing together while their owners watched. It's a designated space where people bring their dogs to exercise and socialize. Dogs are pack animals. They enjoy playing with others of their kind. Remarkable, Junior muttered, taking notes on his alien equivalent of a tablet. And the different species of dogs don't try to establish dominance through combat. Sometimes there's a bit of roughhousing, Miller explained, but it's usually just play. Proper training and socialization are key. The conversation was interrupted by Tom's voice over the intercom. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Galactic Dominion High Command. Miller stood up. Admiral, would you like to take this in the conference room? Crix gently moved Spot off his lap, earning a disappointed whine from the creature. I believe it's time to explain some things to my superiors. Dr. Roberts, would you be willing to prepare a presentation about Earth's wildlife? Something gentle to start with. Of course, she replied, though you might want to leave out the part about spiders for now. Several of the alien officers made distressed clicking sounds at the mere mention of arachnids. They had not taken well to learning about Earth's eight-legged inhabitants. As they headed to the conference room, Miller noticed Junior lingering behind, still watching the dog park hologram. Something on your mind, officer? Captain, Junior said hesitantly. Do you think, would it be possible for some of us to visit an actual dog park? For scientific purposes, of course. Miller smiled. I think that could be arranged. We'll need to establish proper diplomatic relations first, but I don't see why not. In the conference room, Admiral Crix stood before the large screen, addressing several senior members of the Dominion High Command. Their expressions shifted from confusion to disbelief as he explained the situation. So you see, Crix concluded, what we perceived as biological warfare potential was actually an opportunity for peaceful cultural exchange. The humans' ability to coexist with such diverse life forms suggests they could be valuable allies. And the beast? One of the commanders asked. As if on cue, Spot trotted into the conference room and curled up next to Crix's feet, looking about as threatening as a sleepy puppy. I believe, Crix said, looking down at the creature with what humans were learning to recognize as affection, we may need to reconsider our definition of beast. The humans have shown us that different isn't always dangerous. After the transmission ended, Miller turned to Crix. That went better than expected. Indeed, the Admiral agreed. Though I suspect explaining the concept of pet adoption to the High Command will be interesting, especially since several of my crew have already asked about the possibility of acquiring their own Earth animals. One step at a time, Miller suggested. Maybe we should start with teaching them how to use a pooper-scooper first. The blank stares from the alien officers suggested they had many more cultural surprises ahead of them. 6 months after the infamous Beast incident, the observation deck of Earth's first interspecies diplomatic center was packed with an unusual crowd. Humans mingled with members of the Galactic Dominion, watching through the massive windows as ships from both species moved peacefully through space. Captain Miller, recently promoted to diplomatic liaison, stood next to Admiral Crix, who was now sporting what appeared to be a custom-made Earth-style uniform with extra sleeves. At their feet, Spot snoozed peacefully, wearing a collar that identified it as First Ambassador of Interspecies Relations. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Miller asked, watching a group of alien children carefully petting a golden retriever under their instructor's supervision. Never, Crix admitted, his 4 eyes scanning the room. Though I must say, watching the High Command try to understand the concept of a pet shelter was quite entertaining. The Diplomatic Center had dedicated an entire wing to what they called the Adaptation Program, where members of the Dominion could gradually get used to Earth's wildlife. Starting with small, gentle creatures and working their way up, the program had been surprisingly successful. How's Junior doing with his new cat? Miller asked. Crix made the clicking sound that humans now recognized as laughter. He sends daily reports about her activities. Yesterday, he was extremely proud that she allowed him to pet her for 5 whole minutes. Progress, Miller nodded. Though I'm still amazed how quickly your people went from being terrified of fur to running their own adoption centers. Fear often comes from misunderstanding, Crix said, watching as Spot rolled over in its sleep. Though I must admit, some of your Earth creatures still unsettle me. The bears, the squirrels, Crix shuddered. The way they climb things. Unnatural. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Roberts, who approached with a tablet in hand. The latest results from the Joint Exploration Program are in. You're going to want to see this. The program, dubbed Peaceful Pause Initiative, had been sending mixed crews of humans and Dominion members to explore new worlds. The combination of different evolutionary perspectives had led to some remarkable discoveries. Another furry species? Crix asked, leaning in to view the tablet. Better, Dr. Roberts grinned. We found a planet where the dominant life forms are a mix of both our biological types. Exoskeletons and fur working together in the same ecosystem. Miller whistled softly. Now that could be interesting. Indeed, Crix agreed. Though perhaps we should wait before showing the High Command. They're still adjusting to the concept of dog shows. The latest interspecies pet show had been quite an event, with Dominion members proudly showing off their Earth pets, while humans cooed over 6-legged alien creatures that looked remarkably similar to Spot. Speaking of Spot, the original terror beast had become something of a celebrity. Its image appeared on the official logo of the Peaceful Pause Initiative, and stories of its role in preventing an interspecies conflict had become required reading in both human and Dominion diplomatic training. The new Joint Academy opens next month, Miller mentioned. First class of human and Dominion cadets training together. With a mandatory course in xenobiology and pet care, Crix added. Who would have thought that the key to interspecies peace would be learning to appreciate each other's creatures? Spot chose that moment to wake up, yawning and stretching all 6 legs before trotting over to a group of new Dominion visitors who were still nervous around Earth animals. Within minutes, it had them cautiously offering treats and pets. You know, Miller said, watching the scene, when I took command of the Star Seeker, I expected to find new life forms out there. I just never expected them to be so adorable. Crix suggested, using the Earth word that had become surprisingly popular among his people. I was going to say transformative, Miller smiled. One little creature changed everything. Dr. Roberts checked her tablet again. Speaking of changes, the first batch of specially trained therapy animals for Dominion space stations ships out next week. Who knew that emotional support animals would become our biggest export? As they watched Spot continue its unofficial diplomatic mission of winning hearts through cuteness, Miller couldn't help but think about how sometimes the greatest changes come from the most unexpected sources. What had started as a threat of war had transformed into something beautiful. 2 very different species learning to appreciate not just each other, but all the wonderful forms of life the universe had to offer. Even if some of them did have fur.